I'd be in conversation with someone and my mind was just fixated on what I was going to eat later or what I had already eaten. Maybe I was tallying up the calories that I had or tallying up the calories that I had saved so I could like eat something later on in the day. And this was wrapped up in this feeling of it needing to stay hidden. Like I didn't want people to know what I was thinking about. The food noise that I was experiencing, whether it was beating myself up for having had something the day before or stressing about the restaurant that we might be going to later because I didn't know like what was going to be on the menu or how many calories were in something, that was all wrapped up in this heaviness. It was wrapped up in this weight. It felt heavy, it felt like a weight, it felt like something I needed to hide, I needed to keep a secret, and it felt really hard to turn off. In fact, at that time, the time that I'm thinking about right now, it felt impossible to turn off. And the reason I'm sharing this with you right now is I want to clarify the difference between food noise, because that's what I was experiencing, food noise. So the difference between food noise and just thinking about food. Because we can think about food and not be experiencing food noise. In fact, you might be someone who just really likes to bake or cook. In fact, I'm just going to say my husband loves to make sourdough bread. He loves to bake. He really enjoys that. Like he has fun with it and looking up different recipes. He doesn't experience food noise. And so, of course, he has to think about, all right, what ingredients do I need if I'm going to make this cranberry orange sourdough bread, which was amazing, amazing. It's so good. What ingredients do I need for that? Or what ingredients do I need if I'm going to make my cupcakes that have cherry frosting, right? Also really amazing. He does vegan ones. And, but he does not experience food noise. And here's the difference. Like he can make those things and plan to make those things and have them and then move on to the next thing. It's just not a big deal. He's not carrying those thoughts into his day, into his conversations, right? Maybe he says, "Hey, Eileen, like what kind of cupcake do you want?" Very different. When it comes to the big difference between a food noise and a food thought or food thoughts, is food noise, like I said, feels heavy. It feels like a burden. It feels like a weight. It feels like something really hard to get out from under. It feels like we can't turn that dial down. We can't turn that dial off. It also feels shame-based. It feels like something we need to hide. Like we don't want people to know we're having these thoughts around food. That is food noise. Just food thoughts, it's no big deal. It's in the light, okay? It's just like whatever. Like it's maybe life-giving thoughts about food, maybe neutral thoughts about food. It's just easy, right? We can be cooking something, making something, and then something happens and we move on to the next thing. Hopefully we shut the burners off. We move on to the next thing. So that's the big one. Food thoughts, it's just light. It's easy. No big deal. You can be thinking about it, move on, not carrying it into your day. Thankfully, that's where I'm at now, right? Food noise for me isn't a thing, right? And if food noise is something you struggle with, I want to help you find freedom from the food noise, because what happens is when we get freedom from that food noise, we get our mind back, right? I would not even be talking here with you today if I was still experiencing food noise. I wouldn't have the mental capacity to even think about, all right, I'm going to get on, I'm going to teach this, talk about this, get things set up. And I know this is like, I'm still learning as I go, but I have the capacity to learn as I'm doing this, to figure out how to get this damn mic to work. And do I even like this one? Which I don't know if I do. I have the capacity because my mind is not so bogged down with the food noise. The 24/7 food thoughts, they take up space, they take up time, they take up creativity. They really rob us of being able to focus on other really amazing, awesome, wonderful things in our lives. And so I hope that clears things up, the difference between food noise and a food thought. All right. Heavy, weighted, hard to get out from under, light, easy. We can move on to the next thing, just no big deal. Food noise, food thought. So where does food noise come from? Okay, so why does somebody like Eileen, who I had food noise for many many years, right? Why would I experience food noise and then my husband like just doesn't? He has the food thoughts and food noise. Like he doesn't even really understand the word food noise, and so that was why I also wanted to teach on this because I'm like, wow, I totally know food noise because it's like in my lane. That's just kind of something I've always thought about. Like, it's just like, I guess around intuitive eating and mindful eating, it's a word people use. But in case you don't know what food noise is, now you do. And he was like, Eileen, not everybody knows the term food noise. So I hope that clarifies that for you. And but why is food just easy for him? And then for me, it wasn't, and food thoughts for him and food noise for me. Well, so let's talk about this. Neuropathways. You may have heard about neuropathways, maybe not. We can also think of brain patterns, right? Our brain loves repetition, right? It just loves repetition. It loves the easy path. And so when we think about food, whether it's tracking food, especially if we've been on a diet. So my husband's also never been on a diet. So I had done every diet under the sun. Okay. And so with diets, and no judgment, no shame, if you're on a diet, that, this is not, we're not judging or shaming, but let's just talk about what can happen. When we diet, there are ways of thinking about food. And usually part of a diet is really memorizing those ways to think about food, really fixating on those ways to think about food, right? Whether it's weighing our food or tracking our calories or the 80/20, or, just like any of that. And again, no shame, no judgment, or cutting out certain foods. And we start to really believe that certain foods are very, very bad. And then certain foods are very, very good. And we attach morality to food. Well, guess what? The more we go down that path, the more our brain remembers and creates these neural pathways. Okay. And what in all of those situations, doesn't even matter what diet was. What was it? Food, 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 food. Food is the way to fix. Food is the way to, whatever. Our brain creates neural pathways, well-worn ways of thinking, brain patterns. That turns into food noise, right? That turns into food noise. It can feel heavy. It can feel like a weight. It can feel hard to get out from under. It can feel really hard to turn the dial down. Okay, so that's one way, way the food noise can start to show up. Food noise, it can also be a way that our system is seeking safety. Okay, and I know we talk about the nervous system here, right? Nervous system led food freedom. Our nervous system is always seeking safety, right? Our brain is always scanning for safety and danger. So I just want to help clarify how that could be the case, because you're like, I mean, how the heck is food noise creating safety in my system? Well, it might not actually be creating safety in your system, but if your nervous system thinks that fixating on food, replaying the calories over and over again, just like having those food thoughts, if your nervous system has the experience of relief from you doing that, it's going to seek that more. Because even if it's just like a moment, a brief moment of safety in the system, if that is the only thing that's on the table, your nervous system's going to continue to reach out for that. So let's say, for example, we had a really tough day at work, right? Just like everybody needed us. It was a tough day. We're stressed. We're overwhelmed. Well, the easy go-to from the nervous system brain perspective is to just start thinking about that food. Just start thinking about food because it feels familiar. It feels easy. It gives us some relief from the other things. Also, if we've experienced trauma in our lives, which I think to some extent we probably all have, trauma looks different for everyone. And those emotions, right? And feelings start to bubble up, and we're like, I don't really want to feel that. The food noise gives us some relief from that, whether it's thinking about what I'm going to eat, beating myself up for what I already ate, retallying calories, macros, or points, obsessing about eating a certain way. Okay. stressing over the restaurant I might go to, overanalyzing the menu. All of that is a distraction from the stuff, right, that we might not want to feel. So, food noise, as I was saying, with the well worn neural pathways, the brain patterns can show up in the mind, in the thoughts, but it also, food noise shows up in the body. So, how does food noise show up in the body? It can look like that pull we feel over food. Maybe at the end of the day, when everything is quiet, you might have some food noise, like, oh, what do I want? But even more powerful than that, you just might feel this pull in your body towards food to be able to eat. Okay, that's an example of food noise showing up in the body. Food noise showing up in the body could also look like anxiety around food. Maybe you get invited to a party and just the thought of going to the party causes anxiety because you don't know what foods are going to be there. Food noise in the body can also feel like shutdown. Maybe you're like, I know Eileen said consistent nourishment is a really important part of healing my relationship with food, which consistent nourishment is an important part of quieting food noise. But hear me on this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the thought of being consistently nourished and having food available and planning what I'm going to eat causes me to kind of go into a shutdown. That's an example of food noise in the body. And so we want to be really gentle with ourselves with that. And so to recap, we talked about, okay, what is the difference between food noise and just food thoughts? We talked about like, where does food noise come from? We talked about how food noise resides, yes, in the mind and in our thoughts, but also in our body. And of course, I want to leave you with some really practical advice for finding freedom from the food noise. I lived so much of my life with food noise, and it was so annoying because it kept me from just living the life I wanted to live. When our mind is fixated on food 24/7, we do not have the capacity to think about other things that are deeply meaningful. Okay. I wouldn't be here talking with you right now if I was still trapped in the food noise because I wouldn't have the capacity to even figure out how to do a YouTube video, right? I just wouldn't. And so learning to turn the dial on the food noise, learning to even turn that damn food noise off is going to give you your mind back. And when you have your mind back, you get your life back. I really mean that. I really do. And so first thing I want you to do, and you're already doing it, you are already doing it. If you're still listening, you're already doing it. Step number one is creating awareness without judgment. So just noticing this food noise and how it's showing up in your life. Again, without judgment, really important. So you're not going to like just be like, damn, beating myself up and thinking about food. Da, 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 da. No, just instead of that, just take a step back, like mentally a step back, and just be like, you know what? It's interesting that I'm starting to tally those calories up again. Or it's interesting that as this person's talking to me, my brain's just fixating on that food noise. It's just fixating on that obsessive food thinking. Or maybe it's interesting that, I was just invited to a party and I just feel anxiety in my system. It's interesting. I love that phrase. Just it's interesting. It creates space. So awareness without jumping into fixing. And of course, there's things we want to do, and I'll mention in a moment the two other really important pieces. But I do want you to take some time just for awareness. Like maybe take this next week, and it's just noticing how food noise is showing up in your life, and be so gentle, be so kind towards yourself. And just know that that's a really important part of creating any change is first just like knowing where we're at. And the next thing that's really important is, and I said it, consistent nourishment. Okay, I know this can feel boring, or maybe it can feel like a burden. And so if consistent nourishment is hard for you, if it feels like a challenge, whether that's food prep or making time to get to the store, I want you to make it as simple as you can, right? We're not looking for fancy here. We're not looking right? Don't even worry about eating in a certain way unless you need to due to allergies or something. Keep it as simple as you can. This is just about consistently getting food into your body throughout the day, every day, right? starting in the morning and throughout the day. And if you struggle with breakfast, I've worked with a lot of people who struggle with getting up and eating in the morning. There's some room there. You don't got to get up automatically and eat, right? But within a reasonable time, you do want to get food into your body. That consistent nourishment is really essential to quieting the food noise because an underfed body will obsess about food. And so, awareness without fixing, consistent nourishment. And can you guess what I'm going to say next? Can you guess what I'm going to say? Yes. Creating safety in our system, right? So, especially if you are somebody that is overstimulated, you feel pulled in multiple directions, often you feel ungrounded. Creating safety in your system outside of food is essential. It is essential. If there was only one thing you ever got from any of my material here, creating safety in your system outside of food, essential. If we don't do that, our body, our brain, our nervous system will really believe that food is the only way to experience those moments of safety. And the pull that food has over us will not go away. And so creating safety in your system outside of food. And so all of this is a part of my original method, nervous system led food freedom. That's what I talk about here on my YouTube. And so if it interests you, just keep coming back. I do have something for you totally free. I have it pinned in my links. And I also I'm laughing because I'm figuring out YouTube, guys, as I'm talking. And I just figured out, damn, I should put that like up in the links. So it's in the links now. But I'm also going to put it in the comments and pin it in the comments. It's a free calm reset. It's a guided audio practice that I created. And it's one that I used to do all the time. Of course, like I didn't listen to myself do it. I just did the practice. Although then I did record it and I ended up listening to myself do it. So, but also just doing the practice, right? So a couple things about the calm reset. And I do have a YouTube video that talks about how do I use the calm reset practice. Because yes, it is short, it is sweet, it is under 3 minutes long, very intentionally, because it's designed to do on repeat. Right. I really made it short intentionally, but the practices in it are very powerful. Right. And so that short under 3 minute practice designed to do on repeat, get your nervous system used to it, familiar with it. The first time you do it is going to be very different from the 10th time that you do it because your nervous system really needs to get familiar with the practice to be able to really settle into that state, that ventral vagal state. And so if you have any questions about the calm reset, or if you have any questions about anything I shared here today, feel free to drop it in the comments. And I hope this really clarified the difference between what is food noise and what is a food thought. And I hope it provided you with some very practical advice to be able to find peace, ease, and freedom. So thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to bringing another episode to you soon.